Hey there and welcome. I'm Kat. I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through today's session on how to manage vendor purchases and SKUs inside Bravo. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to walk through how to bring items into inventory. After that, we'll jump into some live demos where we'll show you how to add inventory using stock and item inventory through stock management. Then we'll head into some stock adjustments and we'll show you how to start and complete a purchase order. Finally, we are going to show you how to set up your reorder levels to stay stocked up on your most popular items. Just keep in mind that if you do have any questions throughout the session, just go ahead and pop them into the Zoom chat. I do have it open at all times, so I'll be able to monitor anytime a chat comes through. All right, so stock management is your spot in Bravo for handling vendor purchases. This includes planning an order or receiving items that have just been shipped. So if you're the person restocking inventory and getting new product into the system, this is where you'll be spending a lot of your time. Now, there are three different ways to bring inventory in from a vendor. And let me see if I have a laser here. The very first one I do want to point out is our purchase orders. Now, these are like a full tracking tool. You'll build out your order, you'll place it, and then check items in as they arrive. It's perfect for stores who do a lot of vendor purchase orders, or if even multiple people are involved in the process and really need a good tracking system. Next, we have our receivings, and these are perfect for when you already have the inventory shipped to your store and you just need to put it directly into your inventory. It's quick, it's easy, there's no multiple steps. It's pretty much just you have the product in and you add it into the system. Last but not least, we have what's called stock adjustments. And this gives you a faster way to add inventory without tying it to a vendor. This process is only intended for non-serialized stuff like ammo, shirts, and any type of products that don't have to be logged directly into your A&D book. It is also super helpful for if you need to adjust any of your quantity issues. So if you need to add more or reduce it, this is the place to go. We are going to walk through each one of these in a bit so you can see them in action. Now, inside receivings, there are two ways to bring in inventory. We have our stock inventory, which is available if stock SKUs are part of your product lineup. You'll start by creating a stock SKU for each item that you bring in. And once it's created, reordering is a breeze because you don't have to describe the item again or create another SKU. Once it's in the system, you just scan the SKU, add your quantity and your cost, and that's it. Now, item inventory is typically used when you don't have stock SKUs as part of your package. Or if you just prefer to use this method, that's completely fine also. It doesn't require any prior setup, so you don't have to create a SKU in order to use item inventory. But you will have to go in and describe the item every time you start a new order. This means including the manufacturer, the model, and other details manually when you're doing new orders. So if stock SKUs are part of your lineup, you can use either method. But stock inventory is definitely the faster option and makes reordering so much quicker and so much easier. So let's go ahead and cut off my laser and we're going to get right into the meat and potatoes of this whole webinar. And that is going to be starting with adding in stock inventory. So the goal here is to pretty much show you how to bring in your inventory using stock SKUs. So we're going to walk through one, how to find a SKU that already exists in your store, searching through your stock screen, and then also bringing in an item that's brand new to your store with catalogs. So if this is something that you carry often, this will be the fastest way to create it and add it to your system. So let's pop directly into Bravo. Okie doke. So we are going to go ahead and head to our stock management screen. So from here on our dashboard, we are going to navigate to the right side menu, expand the inventory section, and we are going to go directly into our stock management. Now in here, we do see three different tabs, but right now we're only going to be focusing on receiving tab. This is when you're just bringing inventory directly into your system. We will talk about purchase orders a little bit later, but I wanted to outline the receiving process first because it pretty much ties into how it works in purchase orders anyways. So once we pop over to our receivings tab, we're going to navigate to the right side menu and click Add Receiving. So now we are in our ordering screen and it's time to start searching for our items. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to search for something that has a unique match, which means that when we search for it, we've already brought it into the store and Bravo knows exactly what it is. So let me go ahead and grab my item and scan that UPC directly into this search bar. So once we do, since Bravo recognized it, it automatically brings this item directly into our ordering screen. Next, we are going to search for something that's going to have multiple matches found. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and search for our Smith & Wesson. So when we search by description and we hit the little magnifying glass or enter, it's going to search through all of the items that you have previously ordered. And you'll know that you've previously ordered them because you're going to be on your stock search screen. So everything in here is stuff that we have previously received into our company or our store. It looks like none of these items have any stock on hand, and you can easily tell what's on hand and what your reorder points are by focusing on this section right here. This is the firearm I do want to bring in. So I'm going to go ahead and just click the little checkbox. You can do this for one or multiple items. And when I hit the add button, it's going to bring it directly into my reorder screen. Now, the very third thing that we're going to do is we're going to search for something that has not been brought into our system before. So it's going to be a unique item that we're going to have to create a brand new stock SKU for. So we're going to go ahead and grab our item. We're going to pop in that UPC into that search bar. And when we search for it, it's basically bringing us to, and it just automatically created the stock because there's only one item that matches that UPC. But it's going to bring us into our catalog search. So this is just an indication that this item that you're adding to your store has never been received by your store before, and we have to create a stock SKU. If there are multiple items that have the same UPC, you'll be able to find them directly in this catalog search with the details outlined in each one of these little boxes. Now, on this right side panel, just above the select button, is going to be what catalog it's attached to. And inside this, I just want to highlight that the catalog it's connected to, it's just for information purposes. So even if you're ordering something from Lipsy's, if it came from Sports South, you can easily use that stock SKU information if it matches how you want it to be described or added as your SKU. So to create the SKU, we're just going to click select and it's going to bring us to our create stock. Now, anytime we're in here, it is going to be how that particular vendor is describing this item. So the only thing we would really have access to change is going to be anything in this light gray boxes. So I have control over the description, what I want the company SKU to be. And if I leave this blank, it will pretty much match up with the vendor's UPC as long as that UPC doesn't already exist in your store. You have the ability to change the tax groups and add different tags to make it easier to search. So in here, the only other thing we would really have to do is just to outline what the MSRP is for this item, what we plan on pricing this item for. Now, once this is set up and we hit next, that's what's going to create your stock SKU for future ordering. And this is going to be created at a company level. So if you are a multi-store organization, this SKU would then be created for all of the stores in your company, and each store would have to go in and add their own quantity to that SKU. All right, it looks like we're going good. We have no questions coming through. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to just drop them in the chat and we can discuss them now. Or if you want to wait until our Q&A, we can definitely do that at that point too. All right, so now we have 3 items in our store. We have one that we searched for and found automatically. We have one that we had to look through our previous stock SKUs that we've ordered, and we have one that we just created. So at this point, the only thing left to do is start adding our quantity and cost to these items. So the only thing that really is different between these 3 items is that one of them is not going to be recorded in our A&D book. So at that point, when we go and we start adding our quantity and cost, we can easily update from this line. So if we're bringing in 10 boxes, 5 boxes of ammo at $10 a piece, it is then going to give us a total cost by taking that unit cost and multiplying it by 5. On this left-hand panel, it's going to outline the SKU that we're working with, which is going to be the highlighted one in our ordering spot. It's going to give you an outline of what we currently have going on with our stock, and then it's going to show what we're changing with it. So by adding $5 and the new unit cost being 50, we're adding a total cost of $50 to that bucket SKU, and our new unit cost is going to be $11.67 per box. So at that point, if we are selling them for $27, we're making a pretty decent profit margin on this. Now, the other 2 are going to be firearms, which are directly recorded into your A&D book anytime you acquire them. So since there are certain things that we have to capture for firearms to create that record, that's where this little SN button comes into play. So when we click on this SN button, up top, it's going to tell us how many quantities we're adding based on how many lines we have here. And it won't let you go through until you answer all of the lines. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and enter our serial number, our importer, which we're just going to put as NA right now, and we are going to go ahead and lock in our location on the sales floor for this item. So every time we have an item that we're bringing in, we would just click this little plus button and it's going to add to our quantity up top for this particular SKU. So in this case, we brought in 2 of these pistols, and the only thing we have to do now is direct our attention to the very bottom of this screen where we are going to add to that ATF record because it's incomplete. So at this point, it pulled the manufacturer and model and the type directly from that stock SKU creation, but it didn't have the additional information. Some SKUs will have it and some SKUs won't. But just like the other area in that create SKU spot, all of these light gray boxes are editable. So even if it doesn't get created with the ATF record information how you would like to see it, you can always adjust it. So let's go ahead and add in our action and our caliber. And since everything looks good here, we're going to go ahead and click OK. So this is going to update that quantity in that box since we can't manually type it in without collecting the vital information in order to record it. The only thing that we would have to input there now is going to be the cost for this particular item. You can do this by unit or you can do this by total. So at this point, if I wanted to do a total amount instead of by unit, I can go ahead and say, um, I got them for 500 bucks total, and it would then give me my unit cost per it. Everything we do is going to be outlined on this left-hand panel. So up top is going to be what we currently have, and down below is going to be what we are adding to our new bucket or adding into the bucket for the new receiving. All right, we're going to go ahead and enter in our last firearm by clicking the SM button, entering the serial number, importer, and location. We've got 3 of these ones, so we're going to do this 3 times. And if for some reason you accidentally click an additional line that you don't need, you can easily remove that line by clicking the little red X. So now we are going to go ahead and enter in our action, our caliber, and when everything looks good, we can go ahead and lock it in with OK. So at this point, we have added different items to our ordering screen. We've got the cost and the quantity attached to it. We're pretty much ready to add these things into our inventory. There are a few more things we have to do in order to save it out. So I just wanted to just kind of show you that if you forget to do something, Bravo will stop you where you're at and just give you a little bit direction. So in here it's saying, hey, you have to have a vendor selected, especially when we're taking it in through receivings with firearms because we need to be able to identify where they were acquired from. So now it is going to direct us to head to the lower left corner and click that select vendor button. In here, we can either search by phone number, email address, or business name. So I'm going to search by our vendor's business name. And we have 2 records here. We have Acme Refinery, which doesn't have an FFL number attached to it. So I'm going to click on the next record to see if this is our vendor. And when I do, it looks like this is the one that I'm working with, so I can easily select them and add them to this order. Now, if your vendor isn't showing up on this list, you can simply add new vendor and just complete all of the required fields for adding them. In this case, we are just going to click select. And now at this point, we could easily click save and complete this order. If you wanted to record any additional information from that order, you can digitally store it inside Bravo by filling it out here. This is completely optional and doesn't have to be done to do any type of receiving inside Bravo. So I'm just going to go ahead and click save. There's a few things, oops, and it's going to actually give me a little warning. because I forgot to add the cost for my firearms. So there's another fail safe that Bravo has, is just making sure that you're doing what you really want to do. So let's go ahead and enter this in. We're going to do 275 a piece. And when we click save, Bravo is going to do two things. It's going to immediately bring us to our tag, our print tag queue, where we can print out the labels for our newly acquired inventory. And it's also going to add them into our inventory with a create date as of today so that you can easily track the age of your items. So let's go ahead and expand open this general merchandise window. So in here, we have a few things. This is where our order started, and this is where it ends. For any items that don't have to be individually added, we keep them all under that same SKU. So in here, when we print these barcodes, it's just going to show this SKU number on the barcode with a barcode image. It does recommend printing multiple just because you have multiple, but you can easily keep this off of your print and just use the UPC. Now, for the firearms, you can still use the UPC to or to sell out the item. It will basically pull up that duplicate picker where you can select the firearms serial number so that you can ensure that you're selling out the correct firearm. The best way to do it is to print out the individual tags and tag them individually because then at that point, when you're scanning the individual item, it pulls up for that specific serial number. The other thing that adding these tags to your inventory does is that if you plan on using the physical inventory feature to audit your store's inventory, you can easily count and access or log all of your inventory into that physical inventory application with those individual numbers. At this moment in time, that application doesn't know how to recognize the difference with the duplicate picker. So that is just a pro tip if you plan on using that feature to individually tag your items starting with Bravo. So in here, I do want to print all of my items that we took in. So instead of going line by line, I'm just going to hold down the shift button on my keyboard and then head to the bottom of my order and highlight all of them to print them. Once I print them off, it's going to put a little check mark indicating that these have been printed and I can go ahead and delete them. So these ones I haven't printed yet. They stay in my queue until I pretty much delete them. So if I need to find those tags, I can easily print them without doing any extra steps. All right, so we are back and we're done with that order. So let's take a look at what's next on our agenda. So the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in inventory using item inventory. This is going to be a go-to option when stock SKUs are not part of your product lineup. So we are going to go ahead and head back into Bravo, and we're going to go to the same section, inventory, stock management, and head into the receiving tab. When we click Add Receiving, we're going to move from that Stock SKU Inventory tab over to our individual item inventory section, which is going to be this little tab. On the right-hand side here, we have two different categories that you can start adding inventory into. We have our general merchandise and we also have jewelry. So at that point, you are going to select whichever option matches the item you're bringing in category. So let's say the very first thing we're going to add in is maybe some Glocks. We'll just do a Glock 19. So at this point, we're going to highlight this line and we are going to head to our item edit. So there's two different ways that you can do this. Item edit or edit item or estimator. If you select estimator, it's going to make you complete all of the assessment questions. If you use edit item, it's only going to make you complete any required fields. So for firearms, that's going to be your serial number, your caliber, your action. But for any other general merchandise, you can pretty much just add in the manufacturer, the model, and continue on. So let's go ahead and click Edit Item. In here, you would have to search for these things separately. So we have our Glock 19 Gen, and as you start typing, it's going to give you suggestions. And once you identify the manufacturer and model, it will auto categorize. If this is something that does have to be recorded in your A&D book, just make sure that the category does have this little book icon to show it's getting added there. Um, just like earlier, if we click next, it's going to stop us from moving forward until we collect everything that we need to in order to move forward. So we have to enter in the serial number, the action of our item, also the caliber, because if we were to click next here, it's going to highlight that as well. And then we're going to collect the importer for that firearm. We're going to go ahead and enter in our MSRP, the price we're going to sell it for. And once we click next, this item has been added to our ordering screen. Now, this is only showing one item at a time. So we're just going to navigate to the right side menu, or I'm sorry, the left side menu, and we are going to indicate where we're locating it and the cost that's associated with this item. At this point, now that we have everything for this item, its description, its location, the cost, we can start copying multiple items for this particular piece. So we can just click this little copy item here. And since we've only ordered two, that would be the best route for this particular item. So now we have a new item that was just created, and if we highlight it, instead of having to go back into these estimators, since it's already been created and identified with the particular information for the A&D record, we can simply add in the serial number. So we can always double check edit item to make sure, and it's looks like it. Okay. There we go. So all of that is now attached. They will be properly recorded into the A&D book. The great thing about these is that this particular way matches up very similarly with how we take items in directly from our customers. So if you're doing buys or loans, this is a very familiar process to you. So let's say we're also bringing in a handful of chains. So we're going to navigate to the right side menu, click Add Jewelry, and this time we're going to use the estimator in the lower left corner. So when we click that, this is very, very similar or exactly the same as how we take jewelry in from our customer. This left-hand panel does have to be completed. So let's say these are 15 grams for 14 karat gold, yellow, and then at that point you can click through the categories, or my favorite way is to just start typing in descriptions of that category. So we have these Cuban gold chains. At this point, we can enter any additional information, like how long the item is and the location. Click through our tabs if we choose to, or we can just directly head to Freeform and just auto-generate the descriptions for this particular item. At this point, depending on how your price and buy estimators are set up, it's going to recommend an MSRP and price. If the price doesn't match what you want, you can easily head in here and just adjust it to what you want it to be priced for. At this point, we're going to click next. It's going to be inside our ordering screen. The only thing left to do is add this cost. So we do want to make sure that all of these vital information is collected before you start copying the item. Because if it's not included, then you have to go line by line to add it. So we paid 1,500 bucks for these chains. And now instead of using the copy item button at the bottom, I'm actually going to right click on and use the copy multiple option only because we've taken in 6 of these items and I just want to change it to 6 for easy addition. All right, so now we have our 2 firearms we brought in. We have our 6 pieces of jewelry that we've taken in. Only thing left to do now is add our vendor from the lower left corner, hit select, add in any additional order information if you want to, and click save. It's going to bring us to our print tags queue where we can go ahead and print all of the items for our firearms and delete our queue up. Get all of our items for our jewelry and then delete those. And we are pretty much done adding that inventory into our store. Okay, let's see what we have up next. So in this section, stock adjustments, we are pretty much going to show you how to quickly adjust inventory for non-serialized items. Whether you want to add something to that SKU like more ammo, or if you are fixing a count, like it's saying you should have 20 boxes of ammo, but you really only have 18. The great thing about this is that if you're adding to that SKU, no vendor is needed, and it's way faster than doing just a full receiving because you don't have to add in all of those extra things. So let's go ahead and stay in our stock management area and pop over to stock adjustments. We are going to navigate to that right side menu and click Add Stock Adjustment, where we are going to scan in the SKU number that we're going to be bringing more items into. So at this point, this is where we can go to either add or remove quantity, add or remove cost, or do it all together. So at this point, let's just say we're adding 5 more to this at a unit cost of $7.50 per box. We got a deal. It's going to show us all of that right here. In the lower left corner, this is also going to give you that same information on the receiving screen we saw. What is currently in our bucket, SKU, and what it's priced for, our new average cost versus what our old average unit cost was, and also how much on hand is changing. So we were at 15, and by adding 5 more, we'll be at 20. Now, when we save this out, it's going to add those extra boxes into your inventory. The only thing it doesn't do is it's not going to pull up that print tag queue. So down at the very bottom, if this SKU has already been created, you can easily print the tags directly from here. If it is a brand new SKU that you're creating in this screen, you would have to save it and then pop back in to reprint those tags. So here's my adjustment. I'm going to pop in there and then I can print them out. Now, the other thing that you can do in this stock adjustment screen is you can also remove quantity and cost as long as your store is set up that way and get going. All right, so the use case for basically adding or removing inventory from a SKU would be like, let's say you have 15 DVDs on your sales floor, and all of a sudden you are going through and you're counting and you realize there's only 10 on your floor currently. That gives you the ability to go in there and correct the actual count on your sales floor. So from dashboard, we are going to head to inventory, stock management, and pop over to that stock adjustments queue. So we are going to add another adjustment, scan in our SKU number. This also works for buckets, not only just SKUs. And now I can go through and say, I actually am missing three, and we're not going to adjust the cost. So at this point, if we look at our left-hand corner here, we can see we were supposed to have 20 on hand. We're removing three from that count, so our new stock count would be 17. Up top, it also shows us that our average unit cost was 10 bucks, but since we've removed three items, it's now readjusting our average cost. So now it's going to be 12 bucks per box as opposed to 10 bucks before. So we'll save that out. And that is how easy it is to make adjustments to your quantities at any given time. So let's go ahead and head back into our presentation because this is going to be where we start heading into how to start and complete a purchase order. Now, since purchase orders function, has Bravo fixed which function in real life? The quantity, removing inventory. So this is for stock SKUs or buckets only. And it does work in real life. Your system just has to be set up for it. So I know like we have another environment that doesn't allow for negative adjustments. And so if your store is set up like that, it won't remove it. If that's something you're interested in getting, ah, you are set up and then one day it just stopped. Okay, cool. Let me grab your store code. What's your store code? And also, is that how you want it set up? No idea, to be honest. Okay, no worries. I can do some research and get back to you on that. So I could reach out after this webinar and we can kind of get that re-enabled for you. Awesome. Alrighty. So since purchase orders function pretty similarly to receivings, in this section, we're only really going to focus on key differences. So I'll move pretty quickly through things that are overlapping. This way, we can really just focus on stuff like switching statuses so that it moves through that process. So let's go ahead and just kind of give a little information to the purchase order flow. So let's go ahead and grab my little laser beam here. A new order is when you're starting to build that order out. I like to think of it as like making your grocery list. So at this point, you're going through, you're taking stock of everything that you have in your pantry and you're writing everything down. That's very similar to how that new status works inside the purchased order. Now, once you go through and you place the order with your vendor, you're going to swap that status over to ordered. And you do this, or when you do this, I should say, it doesn't necessarily place the order for you just by changing the status. That's going to be something that you have to specifically do with your vendor. The use case for it inside Bravo is just letting everyone on your team know, hey, this order or this purchase order has been put through to the vendor. After that, we have our check-in process. So at this point, this is going to be as stuff starts showing up to your store, you're going to scan it in and check those items in. It's almost like putting those items on the conveyor belt, and as they scan stuff, they go into your grocery bag to take home. Those are like the check-in process. After that, we are going to receive those items into the system. So inside Bravo, you have those check-ins, and you can keep them in a check-in status without adding them to your inventory. So you can wait until the entire order is there, or you can start adding them to your inventory in a partial way. So it works both of those ways. Once those items are marked as received, as you save that status, it is going to bring them into your inventory. It's going to bring up that tag, print tag queue so that you can individually tag your items. Now, the very last thing is even if you have everything marked as received and it's all been done, you'd still have to go in to manually mark that the order is completed. The main purpose for this is it just removes it from your active queue. So you're not looking at a bunch of old orders. It's just pretty much just a way to keep that active orders clean. Um, and it also locks it down. So anytime you're in any of these other orders, you can easily pop the status through to check in, receive, order, add new. So at that point, locking that completed down just ensures that nothing else is getting added to that order that you don't want there. The great thing about this is that it does keep everyone on the same page and it makes it super easy to track exactly where you are in the process and what still needs to be done. So let's get into Bravo and we will start by heading into that same area. Oh, let's get rid of that laser beam. Pop over to inventory, head to stock management, and this time we're going to stay on that purchase order tab. We are going to navigate to the right side menu and click add purchase order. The search function acts the exact same way. If it knows it, it's going to bring it directly in here. If you have to pick from multiple items, it will bring you to stock search. If it doesn't know the item at all, it will bring you to the catalog search to create a new SKU. So at this point, we'll just go ahead and bring in these two items onto our shopping list. So at this point, the only thing we're doing here is just adding to our shopping list so we know what needs to be ordered. We can go ahead and start identifying if there's anything that we want to add to it. So maybe we do want to add in those three more that we were missing. And for these firearms, we only have three that we received, and we would really love to be at a stock of 10. So we can go ahead and just add in what we'd like to start ordering. The left side panel here does give you an indication of what you currently have on hand. And if you have your levels set up, it will also show you, hey, here's at what point you would need to reorder at, and here's the desired level we want to be at. So at this point, when you're building out your shopping list, you can easily start strategizing how much of that thing you need to get. Alrighty, so at this point here, we can go ahead and save this out. I don't think we'd have to add anything to it just yet. So at this point, you can keep your new order open so that people can come through and add more to that purchase order. And I guess we do have to add the vendor in right away. Another thing to note is that this feature does only work with stock SKUs. So you can't add individual items to it. It has to be SKU'd stuff. So once we hit save, it's going to keep our purchase order inside of this active queue. And it's also going to highlight the status as new. So that just means that this is our shopping list and we can continue to add to it as long as it's in a new status. Now, if we wanted to basically call in our order, we can then pop right in by either double clicking or using the side menu. And we could then change the status from new to ordered. The other thing to note is that as you have a new order, you can easily change the order number up top. So if you wanted to name it something differently, you totally can as well. When we change something to ordered, it is going to then update that status. And we also have to add in a few items to the order details. So even though we have all of these different fields that you can attach information to, there's only two that are required in order to save the ordered status. So anytime you hit save, it's going to highlight in red of what is required minimally. So we have to include our shipping terms and how much we are spending in shipping. Once we add those two things in, we can then save it. Everybody knows now that this particular order has been created, and they can also pop in to print the purchase order to see what items are on it, or even just edit the purchase order altogether. From there, the next status we are going to do is we're going to start checking in our items because they've started coming through our store. So we're going to head up here, pop to check in, and now anytime we scan in the SKU for non-serialized items, it's going to start checking off for that. So let's scan that in, and as you can see, it starts updating how many of that we started receiving in. If it hasn't completed the amount that we've said we put in for our order, it is just going to say it's partially received. Once it's completed, it's going to mark it in green and show that it's completed. And the only thing we'd really have to do at this point is just add in how much the cost is for those items. All right. Now, with the firearm, I would love to say that you could easily just scan it in and it would mark it off. But since you have to record the individual serial numbers, it doesn't let you just scan that item in to start adding quantity. So at that point, very similarly to that received screen, we're going to click in the serial number. It has saved all of the information from the previous time that we've ordered it. And now we can just kind of add in the information for those individual items. All right. Oh man, we have 7. So at this point, we can go ahead and say that we have a partial receive for those. So if we save this out, it won't add anything to inventory, even though this one is completed. If you do want to add them directly into inventory for what you have received, you can just click the add to inventory here. It's going to mark it as received. So we're going to save that. We can print the tags for the items that we have already received. Let's just go ahead and get them all off the list. Oops, print. And clear our list. Now this is still going to keep it in an open status because we've only partially received our order. The only thing it has brought in were those 3 boxes of ammo and those 2 firearms. So when we finally receive the rest of our order, we can pop directly in. Again, you can do this by double clicking on this little line or clicking edit purchase. I'm a clicker, so I'm just gonna double click. The only thing you would have to do at this point to start getting these items checked in is to change your status back to check-in. And then you can start adding in the rest of those serial numbers. So we did 7 total, so we need to bring in 5. All right, so now that show's completed, and when we click add inventory, we're only going to be adding the remaining 5 into inventory since we've already previously received the other 2. So once we hit that, we could go ahead and save it out. print our remaining tags, tag our new firearms, get them onto our sales floor, and we are pretty much done with that purchase order. Now, the purchase order is really intended to do this over a course of time, not in one sitting. If you have firearms that are physically in your store, like they have been shipped to you, the receivings tab is the best way to go because then you don't have to go through all of those different statuses. Okie doke. So this is still showing active, and I want to clean my queue up just because I like things looking nice and neat. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in here and just change my received to completed, and that's going to lock it down. It's not going to be adjustable anymore. The only thing I could do in there is basically reprint it, but you do have access to that in your filter by completed, and it will show all of your completed purchase orders that you have received in the past. All right, let's take a look and see what we have up next. And I think at this point, the very last section we have is basically setting your reorder level points. So this is just basically showing you how to edit that stock SKU and set those points so you're not guessing when you need to reorder. This is super helpful, especially if you plan on using that purchase order process, because it shows you, hey, here's how much you have in stock. Here's when you should order more, and here's what you should order up to. So this really helps you get a good, like wrap your head around how to manage your inventory. So let's go ahead and pop right in. Since we are back on the dashboard, we are going to navigate to our inventory screen, and any and everything related to adding inventory into your store from a vendor is going to be stock management because we are managing our stock. So we're going to pop in here. Now, the SKU levels can be found on every single one of these tabs now. So that makes it super easy when you need to set those level points. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that SKU levels, and I'm going to grab that SKU for the firearm we just created that stock SKU for. So in here, it shows that we have 10 on hand. It doesn't have reorder points or desired levels. So let's go ahead and set those up first. So maybe and we do have to click edit. Maybe I want to make sure that we are reordering anytime we get below 8 or lower. And our desired level, let's say, is 20. So now at this point, once we hit 8 firearms, we know that we have to put in another order because we want to make sure that we have enough in stock to support demand. So at that point, we have that saved in here. It's going to go to our review pending changes just to indicate that, hey, we have that change to make in our system to save it in. So now when we go back in here and we pull up our SKU, it's going to show us exactly where those reorder points and the desired level is. The other thing to note in this screen is you can easily go through and edit your stock. So if we head and we highlight and head to the right side menu and click edit stock, this is where you can go to essentially adjust your pricing on this SKU. So if the price of the firearm has drastically gone up or down, you can easily go through and change that price with demand. So at that point, the price of this item has gone up, and now I've adjusted the actual price for that SKU. So moving forward, when I sell it out, it is going to show that new price for it instead of the previous price of 500. So let's go ahead and save that. And now it's locked in. Any questions on setting reorder points or editing the stock SKU? And while I'm waiting for stuff to come in, I do want to say that anytime you're adjusting that stock SKU, that is going to adjust it for all of the stores in your company. So it's not just for your individual store. Well, that is pretty much all we have created for you today. We're going to open it up to see if you guys have any other questions. Derek, I will look into the stock adjustments for you to see what happened with why it's not working the way that it used to for you guys. If there isn't any other questions, I'm just going to go ahead and head to our closeout. But if any come through, I don't mind walking through something further, going a little deeper into something. Oh, great. Perfect. So I just want to say thanks so much for joining us today. We do host webinars Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So if you found this helpful, come hang out with us again. Each session is packed with tips, walkthroughs. I'm here for real support. So if you have questions, we can definitely get those answered so you get the most out of Bravo. Um, Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you next time. Have a good one.